So everyone, thank you so much for attending the first annual session of Film Plus Tech. I think I can proudly state that this is like the first of its kind anywhere, because I tried to Google things online to give me inspiration. I was getting empty searches. So this is historic, ladies and gentlemen, clap for yourselves. Right, so my name is Oja and I'll be so this is a board table. So basically I'm the chairman of the board. And you're all my directors. And we're here to have a conversation on Film Plus Tech. So basically it's about how technology has disrupted the film industry in Africa. We are going to take it from a bit of a history class to where we are today. Yeah? So I'm going to introduce everybody now. So first and foremost, I have Nengi Adoki, who is an accomplished actress in her own right. Please watch Juju Stories.
Yep.
This is not what you see there. Very different people. Killed it in Juju Stories.
Thank you.
However, she, as human beings are multi-dimensional, she has multi-dimensionals. So on one hand, she's also a producer, and she has a hit series on YouTube, and then also she used to work in a tech company, a small company that's called Andela, that's Serena Williams funded. No, it's not a big deal. So Nengi, thank you for coming. Then another person we have, Obinna, or caricature. So Obinna has a very interesting, long, vast career. He's like our OG here, so he's bringing a 20-year wealth of knowledge to the table. However, currently he is the creative director of Red TV, which also Nengi worked, well, season 1, season 3, she worked there. she worked there as well. So, and Red TV, as a matter of fact, a big section of this conversation is on streaming and starting with not particularly SVOD platforms, starting with the VOD platforms, which is where it all started from. So he's the creative director of Red TV, and Red TV has produced the hit series Assistant Madams, and also the one that Nengi stars in, which we all know. So I won't remember that again. Because if you scan through the views, 1 million views, so everybody here has seen it, it's fine. So an interesting addition to this table is something that caught my attention, and I stalked her stuff and I found her before I got them here. So basically, for a producer in Nollywood, if you want to come into the industry and you want to look for talent, a lot of the time you don't know where to go. You have to call somebody, a WhatsApp group here, WhatsApp group there is just very unstructured. However, in LA, if you want to look for talent, it's simple. You go to UTA, CA, ICM, WME, or simply IMDb. Yeah. So she has set up a platform called Nolly Data. And on that platform, you can register yourself as IMDb, obviously. You register yourself on the platform, and hopefully you get found and seen. So, Chidima, thank you for joining us. And on the same talent acquisition platform thing is Julie, also who started a script writing platform. It's a very touchy one because the writers are not the most popular people nowadays. However, I don't think it's the writers' fault, but that's the subject of conversation we'll have. And last but not least, my name is OJ. So for those who don't know, I don't think anybody knows me here. Yes. Mojisola, sorry. At Film One. So Mojisola.
Let me move back.
Mojisola works at Film One. And Film One has made a lot of contributions to this in the context of technology. So when I was in university in England, there's an exhibition, there's a cinema company called the Cineworld. And they have an unlimited card. And at one time, I was staying with my cousin halfway around London. And because he had that unlimited card, he drove us round to Greenwich just to ensure that he watched that movie. So for the longest of time, I was wondering, why didn't anybody do it here? I pitched it at 1 or 2 cinemas, but they didn't see the vision. Thankfully, Film One saw the vision. So they have a platform called Film House Plus, and if you subscribe on that platform, you actually get to watch unlimited movies at a subscription. So yeah. Also, in developed countries, if you want to go to the same cinema, you don't have to stand in the long queues. You can just go on the e-ticket dispensary, set yourself and go. And Film One also did that, and Film One also provides us with high levels of business intelligence, which typically is for the jobs of KPMG and PwC. I used to work in PwC in technology advisory and everything, but so someone has taken the leadership to do all of that, which is really remarkable. Because I remember the first time I read that report, I was on the train, I was like, finally some information about this industry. So, incredibly thank you, and thank all of us for happening. So my name is OJ. I'm a lot of things to a lot of people. However, in the context of this conversation, I have 5, 6, 7 years in digital consulting. I used to work at PwC, and I traveled around Nigeria and some clients in Africa, advising them on tech advisory, ERP implementation, and all of that. So I'm well at home with you guys. Alrighty, so we're going to begin going back to history. A lot of people point to the Hollywood industry or the Nigerian film industry, whichever one rocks your boat. However, from a commercial perspective, they tend to chart it back to 1992, when you had the first Living in Bondage, which again, as we all know, wasn't a particularly intentional, it just kind of happened. And subsequently after, it spiraled and spiraled and spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. So the question I have is, what exactly was the big change? Was it when all of us saw the article in 2002, where it told us that we have a Nollywood industry, courtesy of New York Times? Yeah. Or was it when producers in the industry started uploading their movies onto YouTube? So I'll give that to Obina to respond to first.
Yeah, thank you very much. So interesting New York Times article. I think Norimitsu Onishi is his name. New York Times writer, editor. I think that the simple answer to that question is really the advent of technology, because why was Nollywood why did that sort of tectonic shift happen? If you look at 2019, when was Living in Bondage? What year was that?
1992.
1992, exactly. Yeah. There were a bunch of films that were released. You
yeah.
know, Living in Bondage, I think Violated, a bunch of them. Yeah, you know. Now the thing is, at the time when that was happening, you know, there was technology, a lot of things were changing for technology in the world, right? So a lot of, so that's pretty much the advent of DVDs and VCDs back over there in the US and the Western world. So Nigeria and Africa was a dump site for VHS tapes, you know. So a lot of all these tapes were coming. So I think Kenneth Nwabwe, who was one of the producers, I think, of Living in Bondage, the original Living in Bondage, he came up with this idea of, you know, we can actually produce straight to VHS tape. And essentially that was a game changer. So we had this situation where people were producing films and they go straight to record that en masse. So all you have to do is just have a master tape, and the distribution was pretty much because you just record, and so mass market distribution and all of that. So I think it's quite interesting that the industry are taking off, but the name Nollywood didn't come to 2002. It's interesting, right? Then suddenly, once that happened, you know, obviously we now move from tapes to DVDs and VCDs. So basically, I think technology has really changed the game from that point. But I think when the world became aware was when that article was published, and then suddenly there's this mammoth of a industry happening. Something's happening in West Africa, and this explosion of the industry. So I think for me, it's kind of like if you've been doing something for a very long time in the dark, and suddenly somebody opens the door, then everybody, oh my God, see, that's what you've been doing. So that's pretty much it. But in Nigeria, there was, Nigeria, maybe some parts of Africa, there was that, there's a traveling industry with lots of films and things like that. But on a global scale, it wasn't really, nobody knew what was happening until that article. Somebody said, you know what, there is something that's happening in Nigeria, we need to talk about it. And I think that's when all of it started,
So, interestingly enough, if we look at the sequence of events between then. So in 2002, the article comes out. 2003, Africa Magic launches. 2004, Silverbird Galeria launches. Then a lot of I think 2005, I'm not sure, then you have the Figurine. Then between 2004 then 2014, Nigeria officially recognizes the Nollywood as an industry when it rebasses her economy and finds out that, oh, we are the largest economy in Africa.
Exactly.
So the question now is to Nengi. So originally you lived abroad for many years. So when was the first time you heard about Nollywood? Because for me, I lived here and I went to secondary school here in Benin. I didn't grow up watching Nollywood. I would confess to that. I didn't grow up watching Nollywood. The first
Lots of us.
Nollywood movie I saw was actually in the cinema, 2010, and it was Ije with Jennifer Anumotola. I didn't know who they were. That was the first time I saw those performances. So I remember when the article came out. I remember in secondary school, I'll be hearing the rumblings of somebody called Genevieve Anumotola. I didn't know who those were. And then I used to watch Oprah too. And I remember on that Oprah interview that we all saw, Oprah said that Genevieve is the most famous person in Africa. I was like, who is she? So the question for you is that you didn't live here for the longest year of your time, but obviously you returned to become a professional actress here. So when was the first time you heard about this phenomenon called Nollywood?
Right. So interestingly enough, I was born in Port Harcourt, and I spent a good part of my, early to teen years there, in and out. And like you, I also didn't watch a lot of Nollywood, but that's not because I wasn't aware of it. My parents at the time didn't like the fact that a lot of the films back then used to, they had themes of like, witchcraft, juju, and all of that stuff. So, my mom, she was very religious, so she said, you can't watch that. And I remember the very first film that I watched was one called Last Burial. And it was about a man who, for some reason, wouldn't die. That's all I kept remembering. They would try to like put him in the grave, and then he wouldn't. So when that happened, I was very terrified and never watched another one because she was right. I'm not doing that anymore. But over time, classmates of mine in primary school, early secondary school as well, a lot of them would talk about like shows like, Papa Jasko, something TV. About a family, so it's TV. I don't know which one was the first one, but according to my research, it feels like Checkmates.
Yes,
that was a Checkmate. Checkmate would have been the first.
Clouds.
And what year was that? Was that before 1992?
Checkmate was like 1992.
That was in the 90s.
1992.
Okay, so
Kokoradon, Village Headmaster, those ones were like in the 80s.
Yeah. Right. So I was aware of what it meant to act, but it's interesting because for me, wanting to be an actor wasn't necessarily inspired by what was going on in Nollywood because I didn't have a lot of context. But for me, when I decided that this was something that I was interested in, I didn't know I wanted to do it, but I really enjoyed Sound of Music. And I'd seen it on screen, and then I'd seen it on stage and everything. So it's interesting, my relationship and my awareness with Nollywood, because I then had to go back to understand the industry that I was coming into from this perspective. So it now then, had to do a lot of research because a lot of what you're talking about I know of, but I didn't watch at the time. I only started watching Checkmate this year. So
where?
Yeah.
I would love to watch it.
It's
where?
on YouTube. Yeah,
okay.
It's on YouTube. Yeah, you can watch it. And for me, a lot of what's happening right now in Nollywood has inspired me. In fact, I just learned that the term was coined in 2002 right now.
Yes.
Right? So for me, it was just
I'll send the article to you.
It was just a general awareness that an industry existed, and being in it now has forced me to understand what I'm doing and how to sort of navigate it. So I don't know what everyone else's experience was like, but for me, I've had to learn Nollywood, not, experience it.
So actually, I'd like to hear from you because originally, so when did you begin to hear of this phenomenon of Nollywood? Was it online? Did you start watching movies online or what?
No, it was at home.
Okay.
I was a very typical Nigerian girl that had older siblings, cousins that used to go and rent VHS. So, I hope now we still have our stack of.
Are you serious? It's actually a collector's item now.
My parents did stop us from watching
Yeah.
Even if they did, like I would have gone to my
Yeah.
neighbor's house to still watch it. But
Yeah.
I grew up with Nollywood. I grew up watching Ramsey. I can remember one of the VHS that we still have that is very good. It's My Cross. That he was a reverend father. I think that was even his first movie. There was Confidence that Jede Minaji did. That was beautiful. I think that's still my favorite Jede Minaji's film.
Really?
That she did with Patience Ozoko and Omotala. Patience was wicked. Patience was wicked.
Surprise.
Yeah, but so basically it's a typical. He was always there at home. I
Okay.
have always watched Nollywood movies at home.
Okay.
And I think it even inspired me to want to be in Nollywood. I think Nollywood, left to my parents, I should be an economist working in a big bank or something. But writing, I've always written. So then I transitioned from writing novels to like, okay, let's write these movies that I keep watching all the time. But yeah, Nollywood has always been from the beginning.
Okay, because what I find really interesting is that as the movies, so Iroko as a company, so anytime you ask about innovation in Nollywood, everybody always points to Iroko. However, I would personally point to the advent of telecommunication, which was 2001, by the way. So when we had the first phone call, then the internet came, and then they started uploading the movies on YouTube. As a matter of fact, the business model of Iroko was actually literally buying the movies from Alaba and uploading them onto YouTube. That's literally how it started. Yeah. And then eventually he had a platform, started making deals with the producers directly, and then it morphed into production. So for me, if I try to, and I may be wrong obviously, but if I try to take it back to anything of a technology and the world looking into the industry, I would pinpoint it to YouTube, which was a free platform. Because I remember in uni, and I was in university in 2008, and I was in England, and I remember, I wasn't watching Hollywood then, but I remember a lot of the ladies would sit down in front of their laptop, they would watch these things for hours. So, anyways, so coming back to present, or a bit to the past, then you started having other platforms, piggybanking off YouTube. And then you started having in Danny. Danny was leader in that one. And subsequently happened, you had Red TV, and then Accelerate Red TV, etc. So Obina, so what I want to know is that Red TV is powered by UBA, which is a $1 billion institution. So why not launch your own Iroko type platform? Because they can afford it, quite frankly. Why piggyback off YouTube? What about having it on YouTube and uploading it onto YouTube made that platform more interesting as opposed to either owning your own platform as UBA or investing in Iroko or the plethora of other platforms that are available?
Okay, so let me just delve back a bit, because it's always good to know where you're coming from, because context is important. In 2005, if you look at what was happening in the world, content marketing is becoming a very big thing. Just like how you move from traditional advertising to digital advertising, right? There has been that tectonic shift, you know. Now, 2005, at that period, it was becoming a huge thing. Big brands were beginning to realize that we could actually tell our stories using content. That became the thing. So the good people in Donny are actually my friends, because I actually have an interesting origin story about how he started. You know, of course, you know, Jadi Oshibere, who's a good friend of ours, she started in Donny TV. And it was quite revolutionary, because now you could actually find an interesting way of bringing the bank's products and services, putting that in content, and that can be digested or, you know, essentially, you know, enjoyed by anybody, especially a younger demographic. So that was essentially what it was, because you remember, Ndani was a magazine.
Yes.
It was still like their banking, you know, like their in-house publication. But they said, okay, you know what? I think that, in fact, I remember being tapped up to work at Ndani at the time, because I was coming from television at that period. But somehow I didn't join them. But a bunch of my guys joined them at the time, and they started in Ndani TV. So, you know, I think sometime down the line, you know, it was something that became viable, because for UBA, you know, this is a it is a legacy institution, and you know what, you know, when I joined, there were, you know, brainstorms around, okay, you know what, we need to attract a younger demographic. How can we do this? Content, because young people are literally in this position, bent, looking at phone screens. And what are they watching? Content. And that's the only way to sell your product is to make it cool, right? It's to, you're talking about short codes, you're talking about whatever it is, banking applications. At the end of the day, content, it is what actually going, it's like the glue. So, and it was pretty much a no-brainer. So in 2015, we started Red TV. And essentially what we started to do was essentially tailor, our products, etc., insert them in, but that grew because what started to happen was, we started to, get involved with, co-producing content, and that just blew up.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, so the answer to your question is, we're in conversation, but you need to understand that, you have benefactors who essentially, there's a focus, and it's tied to a regulated industry. At the end of the day, that's where the money comes from. But then again, there actually plans to actually, make it sort of diversify, and bring it into a place where, it's, because I believe YouTube is, to be honest, YouTube is something that nobody's going to defeat anytime soon. I think it's just when you want to make content exclusive, you now build platforms where, if you want to see something that nobody else has seen, you have to pay a little bit of a premium. But we're in conversations to do things a little bit more differently. I can't speak about it now, but we are sort of looking that direction, but to sort of innovate around that and see how we can actually, do things differently. But at the end of the day, this is the essence of why a lot of all these platforms were set up, so that people have it and know pretty much why that's, clear.
Please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you're talking about what you're going to do,
Yes,
and
yes.
I just and this is actually from Moji because I know you've heard what he has to say, and you kind of talked about having a platform already. And I know you started off with context in terms of how much money they have and willing to put into something like that. You've already done it. How much does it cost to build a platform?
That's a really good question. Thank you.
How much does it cost?
It's streaming platform.
Yeah, and it's exclusive and it's African and it's, all of that stuff. So
I think that would definitely fall under a challenging point, because building a technology-backed up platform like an app is extremely cost intensive, and I think it's also good to with the talent that we're talking about in terms of if talent is accessible. That one I also see that talent is also not accessible in Nigeria. You have to export the talent. You have to constantly
So sorry.
In
Like,
terms of,
are you saying you guys exported your?
No, we're talking about.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
Got it.
And
Yeah.
music work.
Yeah.
Okay.
The apps that we see, banking apps, all this, the streaming apps and everything, to actually get that app working, to actually get it working every year, because for every year technology evolves, and you have to update, you have to, go to the back end, you have to make it work, because it's just a lot of, it's a complex.
So is it working right now? What you guys have?
It's working.
What is a ballpark figure for that?
I don't think I can say that in terms of the
The
financial
ballpark
cost.
figure it can be a range. It doesn't have to be the exact number.
Just.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so
hold on.
again,
One thing
transparent.
about this industry I don't like.
But
I thought we
Because
could.
information is always misleading. And everybody's always I can't
think
say,
that
I can't say.
I would stand for my company that we are very transparent about communication.
So what's the range?
So I don't want to give a range here that I would probably go back and.
Or you know what? Perhaps maybe not a range. I think what I'm getting to here is like he's asked him about something that he would like to build that already exists in terms of what you're doing. So with the context that you've given, obviously we're not. And as someone who's also built apps as well and worked on the back end, I understand what it takes to sort of like continue to make sure it's working on the back end, make sure that there's always like a cycle.
And I also say that the cost is also continuous.
Yes.
Which is fair.
Yeah,
So okay, maybe I'll
in the past.
Okay, I'll probably just give a range. That,
It's startup cost.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
there was a lot of challenges with building the app as well, because COVID happened. So people
That's
change
fair.
technology and all that happened. So I'll stick probably like 100 million plus.
Naira.
Yes.
That's roughly maybe like what?
Yes. plus.
100 million plus, yeah,
100
which is
million.
fair.
And
No, that's fair.
And the cost, of course, you know,
It keeps
in terms of
changing, yeah,
technology,
it keeps changing.
Follow-up question. So how do you guys fund platforms like that? Like, is this something that has to do, do you have to go about it like a seed raise in terms of like any other tech company, or is Film One funding it from the
Oh, no, funded
from the revenue
From
that
revenue,
they,
from
its own
okay.
revenue. Okay.
From invest, like,
Right.
the company already has investors and
Okay.
Right.
So Film One is actually taking from the money that we have.
Right.
I mean, it's public knowledge that Africa
Right.
But I
Capital Alliance, I think a PE firm or something, I funded a film one as well. So
Yeah.
originally,
Oh,
they
right,
funded-
yeah.
it's public knowledge, it's on their website and everything. It's not
Yeah.
So again, I would say that Film One is very transparent. So
Right.
I'll really like to take you back on that because we stand for transparency.
Well, it's not
We
just the
stand
industry
for-
in general.
No, but I need to clear that out.
Right, yeah.
I really need to say that.
No, and I
Yes,
also want to
because-
thank you for answering, because I know that kind of like put, you know, perhaps may have put you on the spot, but I think that, you know, as part of what we're doing here, you know, in terms of like even generating real value, because we can come here and talk about, you know, the history of Nollywood. Anybody can Google that, right? Like, you know, so, but, you know, there's someone here also who's now just starting off a platform, which is also technology driven and technology backed. So to understand what the pipeline is and what the resources are that are available, et cetera, I think will be of immense value. And I want to thank you for answering.
Because
Yeah.
the challenge, to piggyback off that, I remember at AFRIF, there was a panel like this as well, and they put a lot of them on the spot. I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but they did. And
You're in the
someone,
spotlight, so hey.
Exactly.
someone got up and asked the question of, oh, why don't we build our own platforms, our Nigerian platforms? Because a lot of the time you hear a YouTube, you hear Netflix, you hear Amazon. So what is really interesting in the Ukraine and Russian thing is that a lot of them are now restricting access. That is how you now understand the concept of ownership.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that,
important,
if the ownership is not a localized, you actually don't have any power over it.
True.
So, however, the challenge is that running this platform is extremely expensive. It's highly cost intensive. So, you should actually ask an intelligent question of the funding, because a lot of the time it's difficult to find a local funding to run this platform. It's not going to be a commercial bank, that's out of that question. So it's either going to be a private equity or venture capital. And also again, there was an article, I'm not sure it was a Tech Cabal or Tech Point or one of them, that analyzed inflow of capital to fund a tech startup. And it's still not from Africa particularly. A
Silicon
chunk
Valley.
of that is still coming.
I also want to
Please
say,
respond.
so that it's public
That's the talk we're
knowledge.
having.
No, she should respond from
I
Angela.
want to say
Yes.
in terms of like public knowledge, yes, there's stuff like that, but people are building interesting things and are willing to fund and back ventures, especially ones that are coming from Africa, which is why I found what two of you were building very interesting, because platforms like Future Africa exist now. Maybe you don't have a Film One that has like a revenue inflow where you can then go and build, but then, you know, from what I've learned, you know, with $1,000 you can be you can have some sort of exposure to, you know, some of the funds that are out there. Like, how do you then create like a ready investment fund that can put money into all, and it's not even just the ownership. A lot of times, even with tech, on the back end, some of the technology that exists for you to run your own technology are also run by other people. So
So you want the
again,
cloud now.
this
That's
is-
Amazon.
Exactly. So this
AWS.
conversation is way
It's very layered.
beyond all of
it
this.
is.
But I think that, you know, it would be unfair to say, you know, only those sorts of funds exist, because I know that some of them are now starting
localized,
from
yes.
exactly, and they're open to people who are doing
Then I think
amazing
you want
work.
the
Yeah.
creative, I think it's something creator forum that they just completed their, as in they opened space for, if you're in the film industry, entertainment industry, and you're building anything that's tech related.
Okay.
So you can apply for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I think
Creative.
that was it. Yeah, so
Okay.
so, but that's also an exciting platform. But the thing about, from my experience as
Please.
someone who
Yeah.
just
Launch the
launched a
platform.
website
Yeah.
2 months ago,
Tech startup,
is
yeah.
that, and full transparency, we bootstrapping a company. Do you understand? Like, it's my money, it's my co-founder's money that we're using. So it's not like we've had investment yet.
Yeah.
So because we wanted to, because we were building something new, and I would say new, the first of its kind in Nollywood. Obviously, it exists in other countries and everything and industries, but it doesn't exist in Nollywood. It was very difficult for us to go to someone and say, hey, I have this idea. Well, this is what I want to do. It sounds exciting, but as someone that wants to invest in the company, it's okay. Like, we understood when they were scared because they don't have anything to back up. We didn't have anything to back up what we were saying.
Yeah,
we didn't have proof. We didn't have. I couldn't say I have worked with Andela, I've worked with these people, I've done this one, I've done that thing. So when I say I'm building this thing, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I'm just a filmmaker. That's it. That's all I have done. Do you understand? And then my business partner Ibrahim Suleiman is also a filmmaker that also paints. So when it makes those conversations very hard. So what we had to do was to decide we are going to build, we are going to start, and it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
But we are going to start, and then we are going to prove that we are worthy of you giving us your money to do better. So now that we've built, okay, we launched like February, and this is an idea that we have had for a long time. I've had for a long time. So I've had so many imaginations of things that I want to do, how I want us to progress, and all of those things. And if we're being honest with ourselves, that requires money.
Yeah.
That requires funding. And like she said, one thing about tech is that every day you're spending money on something. You are either buying something to expand something, you are trying to pay for this service, you are trying to do all of those things.
Capital.
Yeah, so you now have to decide, are you paying attention to those day-to-day spending that you need to do, or are you going to ignore those things and keep the money so that you can do the big thing that you want to do? And then let's open up ourselves for investments. Let's start looking at investors and all of those things. And from the few conversations that we've had, people are excited about the idea of what we are doing. But we are also still in the stage of you have not proved yourself. We are 2 months old. And I'm being honest with myself, if you come to me and you're not my family and friend, and I will not give you my money for something that is 2 months old. Like, what is the proof that you're going to last the next 6 months? So a lot of the conversation that I've heard from people that venture capitalists, angel investors, is that we want to see a bit more progress. Like where you guys are now is very exciting because within 2 months, when we tell people that we have almost 500 sign-ups on the platform, they are amazed that we have that because it's a very niche industry.
Yeah,
it's not like
it is.
If you have 500 people in film industry signed up to your platform within 2 months, that's exciting. But what happens in the next 6 months?
True.
How are you going to continue to provide,
Scale.
to give, to
Scale
scale
up.
up,
Yeah.
to give value and all of those things? So that's where it becomes difficult to have those people invest in your company and all of those things. So those 6 months are very difficult. Do you understand? Like there's something that was very terrible that happened to us. We were hacked.
Oh, wow.
We were hacked a month after launch.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so, and it's not like random, it was targeted. It was someone that decided, oh, I want to hack these people. In my head, I was like, we are young, we are babies. Why leave us alone? And it was a big deal. And it kind of made us sit up. Not like we were not sitting up, but that kind of made us understand that there were things that we didn't think about. Do you understand? And one of the bad things that happened to us is that there was a conversation we were having towards investments and all of those things within the week that we were hacked. And that messed that up. Do you understand? Because why am I investing in your company if you are having this
Sort of
security
issues.
Do you understand? So, but it's a learning process. It's something that we've grown from. It's something that I don't think would happen to us again. It's something that I'm now thankful that it happened
happened
now.
at the early
Sorry,
stage.
I have a question.
Yes.
So at this point, have you gotten a CTO?
So it's a conversation that we're
We're having that
with
conversation.
a couple of people at the moment
Yeah.
because we are very particular as to the kind of people that we are
People you bring
bringing
on,
in.
on board, yes.
A recruitment.
Yes,
Yeah,
to the
Culture,
company,
yeah.
yes, and all of those things. So, but I'm not saying like this investment of making conversation, and some you also have to understand that there are people, and like she said, it's very true. There are so many different types of organization, women focused, entertainment focused, and all of those things. But also you have to be in a space where they are willing to.
So basically, on Julie, to what
Yeah.
extent is your platform?
Coming from like a creative space and wanting to go into tech, even if I studied computer science and I feel like I understood what it feels like to try and bring together a tech team, I realized that approaching the business of it is another school entirely. And then getting people to buy into your vision is another thing. Sometimes we go in charge with just one aspect of the knowledge that we need to get people on board. So it's interesting to know that when you explore those areas that you know, you get to learn the areas that you are lacking, and then you get to get more information to position yourself better right in the next stage. But if there are investors, yes, we have a lot of them. We have them in different sectors. We have their interests. We have people that are interested in different things. And it's very, very exciting that we even have so much more investors that are interested in creative tech now, this period, than they were like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So when Urban Show, when we started, we thought, okay, we could bootstrap. We had, at the early stage, we had people that were interested because they thought, okay, this is fascinating, and there's so much interest in African storytelling or trying to tell stories authentically. And it was important that we are not just saying, yes, take your narrative, but that we are charging ourselves with tools to tell them correctly. So a lot of investors wanted to pump into it. But when you go to the wrong sector, you're speaking to the wrong set of people, you position yourself to fail and then feel like, oh, it's not working. The luck or the experience I had was that I was speaking to people that did not just dismiss me, but gave me alternatives. And then those alternatives were local alternatives. They're like, oh yeah, this is a very fine idea, but I think you're speaking to the wrong people. Have you heard of this? And when I started channeling to the right, audience, I started learning more that there is a lot of, opportunity for what we are doing. And it's now the onion is now on me to decide who I feel has the same sets of values to even bring on board at this early stage. Okay. So yeah, we didn't have challenge of finding investors around. It is now finding the right fit and you positioning yourself to meet those people that actually buy into those values and vision that you are setting for yourself.
So interestingly enough, Nyangi has a show on YouTube. And she funded the show. Toasted Girl in the Way. It's a hit. I watched every episode. So, and what I find in the conversation of funding, she funded it using Kickstarter, right?
Indiegogo.
Indiegogo. Yes. Right. So at the end of the thing, you have a long list of executive producers. So I don't know. I haven't seen other producers do that, to be fair. I'm sure they have. I don't know, but I haven't seen it. So why did you explore that approach?
I want to pitch my flag there and say we're the first, yeah. Because like for me, if I ever have to go and do something, especially if it's something new, I have to do research and figure out who's already doing it, and then I'll have to reach out to them, etc., etc. And there's something interesting that she said where, like, as a creative, trying to get into, this space, thankfully, and I hear your pain because I'm a creative myself, right? So I think for me, what really helped in terms of like leveraging that resource was the fact that I had been a creative, then I went into tech, and then I became a creative again. I was going to say that, yeah. So it's a kind of like a weird, unique perspective where I then had to come out of my creativity to be able to make my creativity work. I don't know if that makes sense. Deciding to leverage that was born out of the nose, right? I went to Donnie. Obi, I came to Red TV. I went to Red TV and I said, hey guys, I have a show. Exactly. And I heard many no's, plenty no's. And it wasn't hostile. I'm not putting you on the spot.
It's fine. It
wasn't a hostile no.
And the thing is that we have this. I mean, we've got this is now going in, but it's a conversation on strategy.
Exactly. So no, and the reason I'm breaking down this context is because I also want not just us here, all of the creatives in the room to kind of understand. First of all, if you're going to build something and you're going to take it to investors, at that point, the truth is, and it's sad, but not a lot of people will care about the creativity.
Correct.
It's not, yeah. Everybody has an idea, you know, a dime a dozen. I think what is very important and for me, even when I was trying to figure out how to fund the show, is how can we make the first sale? What does that look like? What is the show, or what is the product? Who's buying? Have they paid for it? Are they my family? Are they my friends? Are they people who I don't know? You know, so once you start to think about the fact that you are not a creative when you're in front of investors, you're building a tech company.
Exactly.
And you need to sort of like approach it from a technical point of view, period. You and Ibrahim can, you know, talk about the creative stuff, you know, otherwise. So it was with the same passion that I went and I asked for money from my show, and I was told no. And again, as a techie, I now understand, okay, or as a tech enthusiast, I understand, hey, there's always a solution to every problem, right? So if I can't get known production houses to sponsor the show, what am I going to do? I did the first thing you did was to try and self-fund it, right? So I took all the money that I'd made from my TV run on Africa Magic. I did a show called Forbidden. I don't know if anybody watched that, but I did that for a year. I took all that money and I said, you know what? How can I then create something that works with the budget that I have? The Most Toasted Girl has been growing. It started off as a 3 to 5 minute long show. Yeah. Just wondering. That's not what I wanted it to be in my head. The Most Toasted Girl is a TV show, right? But I think when I was working at Andela, I worked with Andela when it was a proper startup. Like we were constantly building every day. So for me, it's like, what is the, about a year.
No, what did you do also, bro?
Oh, I wore many hats. That's a different conversation. But for me, it's like, what's the minimum? Like, what's your MVP?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the product? You know. So I had to break down Toasted Girl in a way that I could afford to do it, and also sort of like test out how other people would respond to it, right? So which birthed the first 3 to 5 minutes long episodes, and I did 3 of those. And then by the 4th one, I had to get creative because I put it up as an episode, but when a lot of people clicked it, I said, money has finished. You want to watch another one? Well, money has finished. And like, you know, if you want to watch it and you care about it so much, you know, here's a link. And at the time, you know, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, they're all present. And I had industry mentors who told me that it was going to be a terrible idea to take it to people to do it. In fact, you know, I won't mention names, but then someone said, you know, you're going to appear as though you're begging. And to me, it's like, if I can't prove that people actually want to see it, how am I supposed to know that this is something I should even spend my time building, right? So I need to know, if people pay for it, then I know that I can continue to do more. And that's how we raised, our funding goal was $8,000. I needed 12, but I was scared and terrified to put out $12,000, raising it from Nigeria, you know, on an American platform. Exactly. So again, remember what we were talking about. If I had a Nigerian Indiegogo, I would much rather use that, because a lot of people could have given me more money, but they didn't want to, you know, like, oh, what's this Indiegogo thing that you're doing? Do you have Nigerian accounts that could, you know? So all of that stuff. So when we raised it and when we crossed that mark, I said, you know what? People do want to see the show, and now I have something to take back to the investors to say, hey, this is what it is. And I can't talk about it right now, but we are making more episodes. Yeah, because now there's a proof of concept. People bought it. There's money. I can say, hey, this is how I start from point A to point B. So in terms of leveraging that, yes, we were the first. I'm happy we did it, and now I know that I have to spend time building out this thing. And now, with the next couple episodes that we're going to be doing, it's now going to be the version of what I wanted it to be at the beginning, which is now the full-length 22-minute episodes. So.
Let me just add to that. It's good we're talking about this. Now, the thing is, let me just mention this. Unfortunately, I wear that business hat where I get to say a lot of no's grudgingly. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But the problem is, right, a lot of people don't understand, especially content creators. I'm going to say this, everybody
No,
hears
that's
me.
fine.
A lot of you guys don't understand that what you have are products. You need to start to understand that your content is a product.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is that people send you pitch decks, some people send you finished scripts, and it's not done, and they just feel that, oh, you guys are Red TV now, you will drop. No. Articulate what it is that you want to do. What sort of content is it? You know, you're telling me X, okay, that's fine. How is it going to work? I think people who go the extra mile and actually create something, we're not saying it should be perfect, but that tells me as an investor that, okay, this person really understands what they're about. They understand, they're invested in it to put their own money down and put something that can be shown. Half the time, people just send documents.
Yeah.
And they expect you one phone call, that's not how it works. Now, look at an example of what she did with it. She understood, okay, look, I have a product. I have to develop my product. I have to make people understand that this can actually work. And, so I think there's a huge lesson in there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that. Say that.
So I have a question, and I love the fact that you use the word product. So a most total girl in the world, Albanso, Nolly Data, Red TV deciding to do a men's club, assistant madams. As far as I'm concerned, these are all products you're launching to the market.
Yep.
So in marketing, you have two approaches, either from a product perspective or from a needs perspective. So in this instance, I'll take a needs perspective, aka I've done the research, I've gone to the market, I found a need, and I'm closing in on that need. I'm going to assume we did not do that, and we went through the product perspective, not except for her, the product perspective, aka actually I'm sorry, that is the question to ask: is that did we do any research to say, oh, there's a gap in the market, so most girl in the world, Albanso, Nolly Data, yes, you did that already. And for a men's club, assistant madams, and the new movie you had now. So basically, I'm launching a product into the market, and before I do that, am I doing a gap analysis to think, okay, fine, there's a gap we want to fill with Albanso, with the new show, and with your new show. So let's have Albanso.
First, I think to start anything, even if it's to create a film, to tell a story, it's very important that you start with the research. And starting with the research is not just about having data to show at people that I did it, but also, telling yourself, understanding the problem that you're trying to solve.
Yeah.
So when we started, at first, I would start with the story. It was just two people who came together to write a story, to write a screenplay from different parts of Africa. My partner is from Botswana and from Nigeria. And then after writing, we discovered the most value that we brought to the story was based off of the different culture that we had. And that kind of just spiced the story. And this pace at which we were able to bring that value to our story was very, very fascinating. So when we submitted the project, we got the same feedback. And I said, this is something that a lot of writers can benefit from. We want to tell a lot of stories, but oftentimes our references are away from our culture.
Okay.
So we end up having stories that lack the nuance of who we really are, and very, very minimal samples out there for you to learn about, the different cultures that exist in, your environment, and even for you to be able to pour your own culture into your stories. So it started out as let's start this community where we can inspire ourselves by bringing our different perspectives into our screenwriting, and then have better stories that are screenplays out there that are nuanced and not just trying to be Hollywood, trying to be another templated screenplay out there. And then that moved, because then at some point when we started doing that, it's like, okay, to what end really? We want to write screenplays, but filmmaking is like a co-authorship kind of industry.
Yeah.
You cannot exist as a team.
Silo, yeah.
Yes.
It's highly collaborative.
The story needs to go through from scripts to the director to distribution. So it's not going to end here. We need to take this to people who are interested in these kinds of stories, who want to develop it further, and then the final product also doesn't end with the producers. it goes into distribution. We want audiences to like, oh yeah, they see stories that have been made and they're inspired by that. They can see themselves. They can see the representation of themselves in the story. And so Albancio became like, so we did go out, we sent questionnaires, writers, producers, what like the challenges that you faced in trying to acquire a script. And some producers like, oh yeah, every time we call for script, it's almost as though I'm starting a workshop. Like I have to tell these writers how to format a script. Some people send me pros, like they don't, and then my emails clogged, and writers are like, I don't have adequate feedback. Sometimes I don't even get responses about whether the story is going to be made. And then I don't know where to take it to. No one is willing to, like there were just different responses and like, okay, something was very common. You're creating something, you need support as a writer, you need collaboration, you also need feedback, and at the end of the day, you want to sell it, you want it to be produced, and the producers want, okay, I want a particular level of structure, a particular level of quality, and an authentic story. And I want to be able to find that specific story that I need. It's not about what you are creating and the general pitches that I'm getting. It's about what I'm ready to produce at this time. So if there's a platform where I don't need to stress or confuse myself with different ideas, I just have to click a few keywords and themes, and then I can find the scripts I need. And then writers at the other end have been helped or equipped to reach that quality that a producer is ready to work with, like a production-ready script. Then we've solved, the producer's problem.
And the writer's problem. And Obina, please, because you are in the studio head-ish position where, okay, I'm doing the men's club, I'm doing assistant madam, and these are a bit slightly different things as well, because one is both men, most women, I have a feature and all of that. So what is the decision in launching those products into the marketplace?
All right, great question. Now, when we collaborated with Urban Vision, because the thing is, when we started the channel, we really wanted to be different. And the truth is, we had experimented with a bunch of things that didn't work.
Yeah.
So we got to a point where we said, you know what, we need to do some audience intelligence. What do people actually want to watch?
Interesting.
And that is why we sort of settled for scripted format. So when we had the conversation with the Urban Vision people, they had this idea, it was a script, and they said, look, a lot of all the shows seem to have women as their central audience, a lot of women watchers, because if you do the analytics, it's really about more women watch.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Both on TV,
yes.
both on VOD platforms.
Exactly.
So at the percentile,
so it's not really high, so maybe like 60-40,
yeah.
60-40,
Okay.
it's not really
60-40.
women,
well,
I'd say 70-30.
70-30,
actually. Age. So you have, for TV, I would say between the ages of 25 to like 45.
No, right.
Yes, so
YouTube, it's about 18
to about
35.
35.
That
So
is
it's
actually the
more
range
core,
Hollywood
because
uses.
because if you go in the back end
18-35.
of YouTube and look at the analytics, that's really where the concentration is. So, so just to go back to what I was saying, now the show, what we liked about the show was it was a show that was centered around the lives of 4 guys, 4 male friends, and it got us intrigued. And I'm like, okay, so there's a lot happening in the circles of these people, and we said, okay, this is a bit different. This is not what you typically see, especially what was going around, especially online. We said, this is the way to go, and we had a fantastic run for 3 seasons. For Assistant Madams,
That's it. Another conversation.
So you probably should set up another festival for that, but hey.
Yeah.
So for Assistant Madams, there's a lot around, in terms of, setting a subject that we like to laugh about, but we don't talk about it openly.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, this is quite interesting. There's nobody who's done anything like this, and that's really what spurred us. And said, okay, let's. It's a bit risque, but hey, it'll make for a good watch and good. Yeah, and we sort of said, okay, let's do it, and that's pretty much. So for us, it's really about, okay, nothing's really new, to be honest. Yeah, from a creative standpoint, but when you do things a little bit differently, a little bit left field than what people you would usually do, you sort of have an audience. People say, oh, like this is really interesting. So for us, it's about being able to differentiate, from if everybody's going right, what's happening on the left side of things. Let's pretty much. So it's a little bit of what guides on how we strategize around content creation. Now, our movie, Unintentional, we launched on Boxing Day last year. We sort of had different plans for it. We said, okay, you know what, let's sort of see how we can, you know, get this to a bigger audience, you know, because at the end of the day, we actually create content for ourselves, but let's see how we can actually push this and put it. So we spoke to a bunch of people.
Let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at
A bunch of people.
And they know
Not you
themselves.
guys. Anyway. A bunch of people, you know, folks in Amsterdam. Anyway, and you know, there's a lot of after so much back and forth, and you know, so we said, look, we have a platform. Hey, let's just launch it. And in less than a month, we had hit 1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's counting. You know, FI was in it, or Mommy Dada, and you know, it's
I'm
really,
Kitensha.
you know, and up until today, people are still commenting. People are still watching. It's the curve is just growing. You know, so again, in explaining, so we said to ourselves, there's too much of Lagos.
Yeah.
Too much. You know, like every you know, but you know, Nigeria is a beautiful place. So it's like, okay, where can we shoot this film in such a way that we can see a lot of greenery? Because we didn't want to get into that sandbox of, you know, a lot of Nigerian movies are shot indoors. Interior shots live rent free in our heads. You know, like it's, come on, everything is like interior. Like, come on. So we said we will do exterior shots. 65% of this film will be exterior. I said, what can we go? Enugu has hills, it's got greenery, you know, if you fly a drone there, and you guys saw Lionheart, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was going to say that.
You know,
yeah.
really good. So we said, you know, we're going to go to Enugu. It was an expensive project because we took an entire thing. We took a generator from Lagos to Enugu.
Right.
Yes, we did it. Yeah, because we said, you know, we actually have to make this, and you know, it was good. So I think everybody, I don't know if you haven't seen it, but for those of you who have seen it, you can tell that it's a good looking film.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So that's pretty much what inspired us to do that. It was quite an experience in filmmaking because you're in a terrain where it's different. Even though Enugu is a filmmaking place, kind of like Asaba as well.
Yeah.
So we found some really good production managers locally, and it was quite good. So that's pretty much what really spurred us on to do something like this.
So I love the fact that she went into the audience because that's the conversation I wanted to go into.
Yes.
Audience intelligence.
Very important.
So we have the cinema audience. We have the YouTube audience for Bososed Girl, for Red TV. We have the SVOD audience, which is basically SVOD audience, Netflix, Amazon, and Showmax, etc. We have Iroko TV, which is also SVOD, etc. Are all of them the same?
Good question.
Cause 1 minute. Cause so I will talk about, it's not a big deal. Chief Daddy was released in the cinema.
Yep.
It did, I think, over 400 million, give or take. Then the same Chief Daddy 2, the same people.
No.
The same people.
Chief Daddy didn't do 400 million.
Something like that. Something
Like
like that.
200 and something million.
No. It was about 400. Check it.
No, it didn't do 400.
Chief, you have to talk about it.
This side is wrong.
Talk about this.
400 million.
Yeah, about like 300 and something.
Yeah, I think 300 and something.
Yeah, 300 and something, I'm sorry. But yeah, it was close to 400. So
Well,
anyways,
it is actually, it's a huge gap.
the point I'm making is that so you have this movie that does really well in the Nigerian cinema, like it's a big hit. Then a sequel to the same movie with the same people is put on Netflix.
Yeah.
And there's a huge uproar. So I was sat down in my room. I literally had someone call me on the 1st of January, tell me don't watch it. And I'm like, why are we all got
I think we all got that call. We all got that call.
It says something.
So the point of this conversation is not to diss the movie. That's the personal thing.
No.
It is the audience.
Yeah.
So the same movie with the same people grossed, according to this, almost 400 million actually, 307 million, grossed this amount. Then you put a sequel to the movie with the same people. And on Netflix, and there's a huge uproar.
Yeah.
Is it that, I mean, the audiences are the same, or they liked it today, didn't like it tomorrow, or the audience are different? So what happened? Who knows?
Okay, you want to say something?
I would say something, but I think you should.
Please,
I think position to speak about it. Yes.
Well, Okay, I think that Nigeria's cinema audience are different from diaspora Nigerian viewers, in terms of the YouTube and the VOD platforms. Now, I would say that for Nigerian cinema audience, we've seen over the years that Nigerian audience tend to gravitate towards funny content in terms of things that make them, feel relaxed, in terms of Nollywood content, not Hollywood content.
Yeah.
Things that make them feel relaxed, things that make them feel, what they can relate to, the individuality in the film, the environment, the story, But I would say that over the years we've seen that comedy films actually make more money than romantic films or sci-fi or whatever action kind of film that we think that, okay, we're trying to be innovative, we're trying to be, I'm just see that by the time they go to cinema, it doesn't convert to the funds that or the GBO that we actually want, But you also see that the same movie will go on the streaming platforms and it will have a different, reception.
Yeah.
And this is because, the mood at which you're watching it at home is different from the mood that you're watching at the cinema. The expectations are different because you take money to buy a particular, probably let's say 3,500.
Yeah.
You pay for Uber. Yeah, you can buy popcorn and drink, get through traffic. Probably you've taken your sister or everybody there, and you go on the big screen and you want to watch a film. There's a certain level of expectation that you have that must be satisfied, and you want to live there, with a happy, joyful mood. However, when you're at home, you're in a more relaxed. You are paying a particular fee for a huge catalog bouquet of content. So you're more relaxed. You're not really thinking so much. Your expectations are not so much, and you actually take time to watch the film. You enjoy the film. You can watch it over and over again. You can really identify what you probably will not see on the big screen. You can take time to watch. So I would say that that also has an influence on how viewers react to the film as well. And also we'll also say that for big screen, there's I was saying this before. There's a particular way films that go to cinema are being shot.
Yeah.
And films that go to VOD are being shot. You can take a film that goes to cinema, and that is why we say that, Nigerian films, they're not there yet, they're this and that, because people don't understand that, as you said, it's a product. In the same way you want to buy an Apple phone or you're buying a Samsung phone.
Right.
It's a product. And for these phones, as we see it, they are different in different markets. So you must understand that you are making a film for cinema. There is a certain level of aesthetics that is required. There's a certain level of writing, there's a certain level of cast that is required. People want to see a poster that is going to cinema and see the big cast. It's not anything, maybe people are being biased or anything. No, it is the business of film. It's what people expect. Rather, if you see a film that it's on VOD platform, there's one film that I really enjoyed, Fine Wine on Netflix.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful story, but it did so poorly in the cinema. It was very bad in the cinema, but it was a beautiful story. It was lovely, because even me, I don't think I'd have gone to watch that film in the cinema. I'm sorry, but at home I was more relaxed. I wasn't bothered about the environmental, the stabs, because that's not what I wanted. I just wanted a good story. So I would say that those kind of things also add to the.
Mojisola, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I just want to say, when a movie is unsuccessful and you felt the movie was good, is that a function of the movie itself or the marketing budget? Okay,
so now both actually, but I will say this: some films, no matter how much you market it, it will not do as well as some other films.
For example,
like Fine Wine, no matter how much you market it, it won't do as well as a Christmas in Miami.
How much was the marketing budget for Fine Wine? That's how we can.
So yeah, but that's the thing. So you make let's say 50 million naira film, and you want to market it with 20 million.
Of course, that won't work.
That won't work.
That won't.
Exactly. So you make a 50 million naira film, you want to market it with about 2 to 4 million. And of course, the marketing will not generate the kind of money that you want to get, because there are a lot of deductions that happen even outside at the end of your cinema run.
Yeah.
So you won't actually get the money that you are looking to get. That is why, for in the business of film and for distribution, there are different windows that actually monetizes your content accurately. So the cinema window is one. You know, you go to the VOD platforms, and before then, I was also going to go back to history in terms of multi-choice, DSTV coming to Nigeria, disrupting how we were, you know, consuming content in terms of DVD, you know, and all that. And of course, at that time, they also came with a lot of money, you know, to pump into the creative industry. People were, you know, innovating. People had money to do things. People had money to be more creative, because sometimes, you know, you know, when you have less money, you are less creative.
Correct, actually, I agree.
You know,
to be honest,
more money,
But hey,
please.
but it's actually the fact. You know, you have more money. You're able to explore. You're able to do big things. You're able to do more things and meet, you know, some expectations. As of now, because Nigeria, our expectations of our own films are really, you know,
Quite
huge.
a grandeur.
You know,
Yeah.
and we're not understanding that we're coming from a Nollywood industry that they had nothing. Like they were, you know, I remember.
Oh, please, that's a lovely word. Yeah.
I remember Diamond Ring so much. One of my best Nollywood films, and I remember how they were doing the ghost scene with just, you know, the basic graphics as that could have possibly have been done then, but we enjoyed it because the story was captivating. You know, so I think that, you know, multi-choice coming in there, it was a boom in the industry. It opened up the industry, and of course, as innovation was changing, the VOD platform was coming up, and, you know, and they also came with the money. The cable platform was, you know, was going down because of the innovation of the VOD platform, and of course, he also came with his own funds and his own creativity. And I will say this as, you know, film business.
Yeah.
I personally believe that there will be constant demand for entertainment content.
Correct.
Constant
Never
demand.
gonna stop.
However, it is how people want to receive the content that will change. You know, because right now we see that people are probably would rather go on YouTube than go to the cinema. People would rather go to watch Mr. Macaroni, watch snippets of this, you know, funny comedy things than go to an actual.
Exactly, right?
And I go to an actual. I like that. Yeah.
No, I mean, what I find very interesting is that YouTube has turned people like Nengi, Brother Shaggy, and Mr. Macaroni into a studio head. For some random reason, they're actually running a studio and releasing content.
It's very important to highlight, because over the years, I've seen producers, you know, limit themselves, and I also, you know, want to applaud you for that. Limit themselves to, you know, going to multi-choice. I have this script. I have this idea. This, you know, coming to. Thank you. Just do it. Like, there are different platforms. That's why I was saying that there are different platforms whereby you can produce content for. You can produce short film. I have friends that they currently do short films right now, because the more you do, it's important to know that the more you do, the more you do. This big organization, the big platform, they would definitely come, but they want to see your track record.
Exactly.
They want to see what you have done. They want to see what you're capable of doing. They want to see how you've been able to do something with nothing that you've had. So it's important to know this, and also to give recognition to the Brother Shaggy's, the Macaroni,
Mr. Macaronis,
you will see
Lengi's,
the most toasted girl. Yes, exactly.
Red TVs and Danis. Oh no, they have money, definitely.
Exactly.
But
how they've been able to explore these platforms, generate revenue, and constantly innovate and create products that people are demanding for.
Exactly.
So please,
sorry,
open up.
one, I wanted to say something, which is just speaking about, you know, what happens when you're on the big screen and when
Audiences,
exactly, and when you're watching it on a device or your whatever. I'm going to say it this way. Technology, right, especially with the advent of SVOD, it demystified the magic of cinema. Let me explain this to you. When everybody goes to watch a film, you only watch it once. You cannot pause it. You cannot rewind. You can't stop. You just watch it, and it's kind of like I've been in this dream box, you know. But once we started to watch Netflix, we started to watch YouTube, I can pause. I can say, what's happening in this scene? I go back, listen to that dialogue, and moving forward. I finish it. I watch it again. Now, imagine a film that is not well done. It's not well crafted. The scripting is horrible. You have audio issues. guess what? People watch that thing 500 times, and all of your problems are all laid out there. Now, if you ask me, right, when people started to watch the film we're talking about, people had time to go back and forth. The same cast, the same everything, but now that magic is gone. I had the remote control. I will stop.
I'm curious. Did it go straight to the?
It's
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah,
So my point is now, what has happened now is the advent of technology has to make you up your game.
I agree.
You have to go up a notch because it's not just, oh, I can now throw it out and that's pretty much it. Now people can actually zero in on what you're doing and really critique it for what it is. So it's really important that, then again, we have to also say that technology has a big part to play. Look at Instagram Reels, that kind of thing. There is no way a lot of all these guys would have hit a lot of fame without this platform.
Technology, yes.
Because we consume bite-sized information in terms of, so it's 3 seconds, 1 second, it's, and I keep telling people, it is about storytelling. I tell people are responding more to content that with cell phones. We're not talking about Reds or Aries or, Panavision. No. It's about cell phones. That, what is the dynamic range of a cell phone? But guess what? If people are interested in the story, so if watching people dancing on TikTok, you're listening to this person, it's about storytelling. Now you're doing voiceovers. People can now do voiceovers over their content, that kind of thing. It's like scripting. It's kind of like, so the whole thing about it is that if you have an idea, technology has enabled you to get your idea to the world.
Exactly.
You don't need anybody's blessing once you do it, like the dude, this Italian, this guy, what's his name, Lamy or something, that doesn't speak and just does that.
Oh yeah.
Kabi, thank you.
That black guy.
He says nothing, but everybody's talking about it. That is the power of just taking your idea, your story, and just putting it out in the world. So that's what I was going to say.
So the question I wanted to ask is, this is the last question. We are running out of time, and everybody understand. I'm so sorry for the delay. So where do we see the outlook for a film plus tech now and 5 years? So everybody can answer that question. Julie.
Just go around table. And
Okay, so I'll go first. Today when we started talking and you went through the history of how, the film industry in Nigeria developed and how Nollywood came about, it did two things to me. It gave me a sense of, wow, look how far we have come.
Yeah.
And wow, such a short time. Like, it's just yesterday, when we said 2002, and the comparison that we are giving ourselves is literally unfounded. Like, trying to be, so it's like, if we are conversant of this history and the trajectory that we are taking, we would see that there is growth. But also, we would see that there are gaps. And the gaps are the things that we need to fill to give ourselves this wholesome industry. Film and tech is not a thing that is just starting. Film is tech to me. Filmmaking in itself is a technology. The visual medium cannot exist outside of technology. It's like, photography to motion picture, editing, even though at the start, the concentration more is towards the hardware for filmmaking, but the industry that exists outside of Nollywood, they've been able to balance hardware and software. They've been able to also balance data provision, investment. They've been able to bring in business, a sense of structure. So technology is not like an in thing now. It's always been a catalyst to the solution you're trying to bring in any industry. So I see that for us, we are realizing that we need to do more so that our industry is bankable. Right now, all of us, most filmmakers are thriving on, wishes, on buy my passion or lottery. Let me throw in as many darts and see the one that's
spaghetti on the wall.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if we create more reasonable structure, then someone coming into the industry for the first time can create a path for themselves that do not necessarily have to be here or there. You can grow in one aspect and specialize, and then people can invest in that specialization that you have chosen, be it sound, or editing or script writing. So for our band show, we have picked a particular area where we feel structure needs to come, where we feel that we consistency in that. We have writers who can look back into stories that can inspire them and that are authentic to them. We see data that investors can use to project the kinds of stories that are coming from from Africa, and also that a community that can feed each other. So you said something when we sat here that we have a story problem as well, even though we have like the general filmmaking problem. And so yes, we have a story problem, but storytelling is part of the culture of Africa. And so it's sad that we would have that conversation of we have a story problem, because we have like endless, limitless amounts of stories, some that have been untapped. That when you listen to older people talk about ideas, you're like, wow, that will make a great film. But those ideas are not being in the front of our head because those are not the things that we see exactly. We are all focused on like
unconscious.
Exactly. So for me and for the solution that I am bringing, I see that it becomes a norm to infuse more solution that brings structure, and not just about me pursuing my pocket or me pursuing that desire of passion and whatever. Like I want my industry to be an industry that makes sense, regardless of talent. Like it's like investors can put in money in hardware, in software, in human capacity, in different areas. So yeah, that's OJ. That's
Yeah.
So I think next person.
So for me, I think we're going to see a lot of disruptions. We're going to hopefully see a lot of experiments.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we allow ourselves to experiment. I feel like one of the industries that I'm obsessed with, everybody that knows I'm obsessed with, Korean dramas, Asian content, K-drama, Japanese dramas, not just I'm obsessed with Asian, and I've studied them a lot. And one of the things that they did that made them become this cultural phenomenon where everybody's talking about them is that they did a lot of experiments. They put out a lot of things that, like, they allowed themselves to experiment. Obviously, let's not ignore the fact that they have a lot of government backing that does that for them. But they did a lot of experiments. Like, what are K-dramas doing? That romance? Who started romance? We are if we are being honest, Nollywood did a lot of Ike loves this person loves stories.
Exactly.
Then
the influence of Bollywood as well.
Exactly. But Korean dramas came and put their own thing to it.
Cultural spice.
Yes, they made it seem like quality. They made it look very interesting. Now people are excited to go to Korean restaurant. They want to eat ramyeon. They want to. I mean, I'm learning the language. That's how bad it's
cultural cultural exports.
But what I'm saying is that
cultural export.
So
that's
they
the
have
whole point.
and it's very intentional.
It is
We are
intentional.
very intentional about. USA and Russia already has the military. This thing.
Yes.
How do we make the world know about
Pay
us?
attention to us.
They took their entertainment industry. BTS is not popular for just. It was very intentional. And like if you go back and study, you see that they had a plan. So I'm hopeful that and they have structure.
Yes.
So those structures is what helps their plans make sense. So I'm hopeful that for Nollywood, like things like Nolly Data, and something like if you are in the industry now, you can register yourself, have your own link. Oh, I'm looking for someone that can play this character. Here's my link. If somebody goes to your link, they can see everything they need to know about your CV. As far as you have done your registration the right way.
Right.
Do you understand? There's something like her platform that I'm just hearing for the first time, and I'm a writer, and I'm excited about things like that. So I'm just hopeful that we allow ourselves to keep on experimenting. There was something that I did in 2020 during the lockdown, like that time when you couldn't go out to buy water. I was like, so is this how we are not going to make movies again? Like, because if there was one industry that suffered that period, it was the film industry. Because film needed people to be together.
To make the film.
People needed to go to the cinema to watch films.
Exactly. So I was like, there should be a way. Do you understand? I was like, oh, what if I write a story that if every character is at home. Do you understand? And then you now edit it in such a way. I don't know why this is funny. Edit it in such a way that it makes a story. I did that. I wrote it and I called all my friends. I was like, let me do it. Let me see how it's going to work. I wrote this. I called all my friends on video call. I'd be like, okay, place your camera like this. Okay, see this. See what you need to do. Blah 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 blah. If you send me the shots, okay, this one is not okay. Do it again. Do you understand? There was another one. I think you were in one that I did. Yes. But that my film has gone to a lot of festivals, and that's not the first film that I did, but it was just an experiment.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So I'm hopeful that we allow ourselves to continue to experiment, to continue to trust that we are, because we're one of the most talented people in this world. There is no cap. Like, we are very, very talented. We just need to allow ourselves to collaborate, I know you, you know me, blah, blah, blah. I can bring this skill, I can bring this skill. Let's do something that we have always wanted to do. Let me tell the story that I've always wanted to tell. Like she said, don't keep waiting for film. Film has to not do all the films that need to be done. It's impossible.
It's not.
Yeah. So as Red TV, they have the kind of movies, and people forget that Red TV accelerators, because I used to work at accelerators. They are under a bank and it's very regulated. If you know how much that they want to do that they can't do because of the industry that they are. So, but who is regulating you? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you can tell the stories that you want to tell. You can just try, make it a short first. You can still make it a feature. Like she did most. Just like us, we are, as the audience, we are angry. We're trying to make it work so that now we can get what we have always wanted. But I'm just like, I think we're on a good path. I think now everybody, the noise about Nollywood is so loud. It's very loud. Everybody's talking about Nollywood. You are now more conscious about what you are putting. We now care about what the audience are going to say. Normally, we are just before making movies and put it, and now producers are worried. What is?
I can't just.
Sorry, but what's the cinema points I'm going to say about my movie? It's an example. Do you understand?
Valid, very valid, very valid.
What are people going to say about my movie? What are these people going to say about? So it makes you think back. Do you understand? So should this scene be a phone call, or should we have sense and do it better? So you are now more conscious of all of
quality.
This. So I'm hopeful that it just keeps going and going, and then we can get to where we need to be.
Interesting. Yeah. So for me, I'm just gonna. So just back to that coining of Nollywood. Now, when Nollywood was coined, right, Norimitsu, the N doesn't necessarily. It doesn't stand for Nigeria, which is going to shock a lot of people. Basically, the ideology behind that coinage was that Nollywood was made from nothing. Because at the time, they barely, and that's why there's almost like there was more ingenuity than when there was really no support. People were doing this from their backyards. So it was something that was built from nothing. And that is really the essence on the ethos of what Nollywood is about. Now, but look at where we are today. Just listening to everybody, look at where we are today. You know, our movies are grossing a lot of money. People in diaspora, people abroad really want to collaborate with us. Now, people are looking at this Nigerian movies coming out of it and saying, "Wow, this is just incredible." So for me, I think that, you know, what the future really portends is, I was at Canex in Durban last year, and you know, I was also, you know, I was hosting a panel on, you know, how technology has also influenced content making and all of that, and something struck me. You know, I remember some guy from Rwanda said, "Look," because I remember Alex Okosi was on the panel, a bunch of other people from Viacom, and they were saying, "Look, YouTube is an American company at the end of the day. Netflix is owned by Reed Hastings, and
An American company.
It's an American company. If we recall what happened to Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp last year, for 6 hours, people who were business people didn't know what their next line of, you know, what their next livelihood was going to be about.
Around the world.
Around the world. That is the reality. Exactly. Yeah, because they had that's the reality. So the point here is, I think that Africans need to invest on platforms, their own platforms. So it's not just about creating, seeking for funding. We need to own platforms. Yes. It is very, very critical to the survival, the legacy of the projects that we create. Because we don't create our own platforms, and kudos to you guys, you know, at the end of the day, it does, yeah, there's a server somewhere, so some server somewhere, and the person says, okay, you know what, I'm very sorry, something has happened, okay, God forbid, putting a sentence, a bunch of rockets, and it's all destroyed. That's the end.
Everything goes black.
That's the reality of what we face. Right. So I feel the future, and we're talking about filmmaking for the metaverse and stuff like that. I think that we should focus on building platform. That is the future. Obviously, collaboration. Nobody can do it on your own, you know. There's a wealth of knowledge that she has. We should collaborate. It's not a competition. We're all in together to develop our African storytelling industry, and that's where I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So I'm going to pick it up from there in terms of owning our platform. I'm going to just talk about Filmhouse Plus for a second. It's why we also saw the importance of creating Filmhouse Plus, giving the customers the ability to be able to interact with the business, because we wanted them to feel the business, we wanted them to be able to get something back. Okay, you've been coming to watch film. Okay, what can we give to you in return? Something easy, so an easy platform for them to interact with the business. So that's why if you and there are different packages that you can actually subscribe to in terms of having the ability to watch major releases in the cinema, not new releases, but blockbuster, past releases that have actually been aired on the cinema. So you have the opportunity to watch it again. You have the opportunity to feel it, pause it, as I said, and do whatever you want with it, as well as having e-ticketing, as well as you paying for your popcorn, paying for your drinks. You don't have to, like, December is also always extremely chaotic.
Yeah.
Going to the cinema, the crowd, the people. You want to book ahead. You want to get your things ahead. So part time you just walk into the cinema and you just get things done, and it actually makes life easier. And I always say that it doesn't come without its own challenges. Yes, we obviously face challenges, but it's important that we own platforms, we own our content, because I always give you an example in terms of content, your product, whatever it is, a platform, a technology, whatever it is, it's like a land. It's yours for life, and you can do whatever you want to do with it part time. I was working in a particular place before whereby we had a series. From series, we turned it into a film. From film, we turned it into a 2 minutes short film. From this, we did this. So you could innovate part time depending on what the consumer wants per time. And I'll also say that I think technology, as you said, is going to be more innovative in terms of we're talking about the metaverse. We're having different things about the metaverse. Now we're saying Mark Zuckerberg said something that metaverse is coming into Instagram, something like that, and that also brings innovation in terms of filmmaking.
Yes.
It brings innovation in terms of technology, in terms of creativity, in terms of diversifying, our products in the entertainment industry. So I think that it's important that we know that technology is not going to go anywhere. It's going to actually add to us. It's going to help us. It's going to help us grow our industry. Because right now, before the end of the year, we have like the likes of Disney Plus coming to Nigeria. You have the likes of HBO. They're planning
HBO Max.
something.
2022.
You have BBC that they want to do a particular production. So many things are happening, and yes. So it's a lot that is going on in the industry, and the industry actually right now is really booming. Is really, really booming. So I think we should be optimistic, and we also need to get proper training as well. In terms of developing our own self, I see that
upskilling.
I see that when you are working in KPMG, you go for training, you go for this, you go for that. But as an actor, you believe that you stand in front of your mirror.
I mean, it's not the acting. The acting is fine. It's the people like the sound people,
thank
the
you.
DOPs, it's the technical talent that needs to upskill.
But even the acting as well.
And the acting too.
But be honest, it's everything. It's everything.
Everybody
has
has to upskill.
Everybody has to.
Finish. So, very important, because we're talking about metaverse now. I don't know, if people are actually going to have gone to actually do research in terms of how we can go there and okay, how we can
Quick one, you sell your films as NFTs.
NFTs, you know. So there are different things that we need to look out. We need to be more open. We need to be more innovative. We need to own our content. We need to tell our stories. I think we're doing fairly well in that as well, in terms of telling our stories, you know. But I think we could do better, as we said, in terms of the storytelling, particularly. Yes, and I think that, you know, going to the cinema side of things in terms of technology now, I would say that now we have the IMAX cinema, we have the MX4D in terms of technology, you know, and amongst others. I think that, you know, there will always be a cinema culture. The cinema culture is not going anywhere.
I agree.
Because people like want to leave their house. People want to
Just-
experience the outdoor.
You know,
People, exactly, like Doctor Strange that's coming out 6th of
Multiverse of Madness?
Yes.
We can't wait.
Can't wait, man.
We can't wait.
We
Like,
can't wait for
is
that.
going to shut down.
I know. I
everywhere.
can't
It's
wait
gonna
for
shut
that
down the
one.
world for that, you know.
Is around.
Yeah.
Is the last question.
So yeah. So I think that, you know, the technology in terms of cinema viewing will actually evolve.
Yep.
You know, in terms of also the metaverse, in terms of virtual reality, is going to actually change. So I think it's really interesting times, and we should just, you know, look out for it.
No,
outlook.
honestly, I plus one everything that everybody has said so far. My own personal thing in terms of like what the future is, I'm really, really passionate about virtual reality acting.
Nice.
So I've been looking to explore that with anybody who is doing it. So any pointers would be welcome. But in terms of the industry, plus one to everything. And I also want to add, with what she said about training and institutions that support all of, you know, everything that we've all discussed. But I think that if we were to leverage technology, whatever it is that we're doing, like, we need to think in terms of scalability.
Correct.
It needs to be extremely impactful, and it needs to provide immense value for especially us as African people who are both consumers and creators of all of these projects. So whatever it is, if it can sort of, you know, look at those things, those three things, I think we're going to be fine. So I'm very passionate about institutions as well that supports the creative industries, and I'm passionate because, like I said, I want to get to do VR stuff. So hopefully we
Something called
can all do
Electric
that.
South. You can check them out. They always, so basically they look for some of the people creating content, you know, for XR, that's, you know, mixed reality, you know, virtual reality.
Right.
So they take them to South Africa and they train them for about for some time.
Right,
so you can just
right.
Google them, Electric South, so you can
Okay,
find
I'll
people
do
who are doing
offline.
creating content with, you know,
I'll
and
do
on that side of
offline.
things. Yes.
But I just wanted to also say thank you guys for having me. I know it's the last question. I just wanted to say thank you, and I'll stick around if anybody wants to, like, because I felt bad that like everyone just kind of had to sit and listen.
That's fine.
If you have any personal questions, I'm definitely happy to engage on anything.
Right. So, in summary, thank you all for coming. Honestly, this means so much to us, me in particular.
Right.
But I plus one everything as well. Me too. However, because I like education, it's very critical for me. So I think, I mean, you have all these fantastic platforms coming in, Netflix, Amazon. Even if we have all agreed that the ownership is still not local. However, in order for us to really optimize as much value as possible from these platforms as Nigerians in particular, we have to upskill. So I'm very happy that both of you brought that up. Because what is going to happen in reality is that, and that has already happened, behind the camera will be from South Africa. In front of camera will be So everybody has
It's already happening. No, it's already happening. It's already happening. Uji.
Very soon,
It's happening.
you see Kerry Washington here, Tandy Newton here, Lupita Nyong'o here, and they're trying, and they'll come and ask, so really, OJ, how do you say how far? You know, in what tone? In the context of the scene.
Yeah.
Like, so everybody has to step up to fully actualize and optimize the value that you needed. So thank you again, Julie, Nengi, Chidima, Mojishola, and Obina. Round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.